Welcome. Today's story will be one of the oldest unsolved cases in Oregon's history. These are the Lava Lake murders. Fair warning, I do show some actual crime scene photos, and there will be mentions of homicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, this is the case as I've come to know it. In the fall of 1923, three men from Bend, Oregon, Edward Nichols, age 50, Roy Wilson, age 35, and Dewey Morris, age 25, would set out to a log cabin in the Deschutes National Forest near Little Lava Lake. Morris and Wilson worked as loggers but planned on spending the winter as fur trappers along with Nichols. A friend, Edward Logan, had offered the cabin to the men for use over the winter. The men planned on hunting marten, mink, and fox in the area. There was decent money offered for furs, and they expected to have a successful season. The men seemed to be having a good time out at the cabin. Moonshine was also rumored to be distilling. They were also looking after foxes that the cabin owner was raising. Nichols and Wilson took time to visit their hometown to see family and friends. This was right before Christmas of 1923. The men also had a decent haul of furs to sell before heading back to the cabin. Wilson had reportedly told his mother to expect him back in February. In mid-January, a man named Alan Wilcoxon, who was a resort owner, stayed at the cabin for a night as he was passing through. After his visit, he noted the men were in high spirits. Alan's account was important, since he would be the last person to see the men alive. In April 1924, Dewey Morris's brother, Innes Owen Morris, would become anxious after not hearing any word from his brother. He also noticed that traps were not being maintained in the area. This prompted him to organize a search team to visit the cabin. When the team arrived, they did not find the men. Instead, they found a vacant cabin. Food had been burned to the pots, left on the stove, and a table set. There were also reports of a cat that was exceptionally thin. Sources I found conflicted on whether or not the cat was alive, but it did help in understanding how long the men had been gone. Missing was the sled used to move supplies and furs, and the foxes that were left in the men's care. After inspecting the fox's pen, lying in the corner of the pen was a discarded hammer that had been stained with blood. The traps that had been set by the men contained frozen foxes, marten, and skunks. This indicated that the traps were not looked after. A police investigation quickly began. The next day, on the shore of Big Lava Lake, which is just northwest of Little Lava, the men's sled was located. It had large bloodstains on it. On the nearby Little Lava Lake, a frozen-over hole in the ice was seen. Further investigation led to a trail around the lake that had snow melting. Blood pools had become visible, along with hair clumps and a human tooth. The ice on Little Lava Lake had thawed enough for police to investigate by boat. The bodies of the men began to surface and were quickly discovered. They were partially submerged in the frozen lake. Sheriff Claude McCulley wrote this in his police report. Even though the weather was perfect, the clear air was impregnated with the odor of death and decomposition, and in it was with an undefinable spirit of awe and consternation that the little party of hardy outdoorsmen laid aside their packs, kicked off their snowshoes, and prepared to tackle a grim job which was little to their liking. It was theorized that the men were lured out to the lake where they were shot repeatedly. It was indicated that Morris suffered blunt force trauma as well, perhaps in an escape attempt. Nichols had a watch on him that had stopped working precisely at 9:10. A man who lived nearby was thought to be a person of interest, but he had a solid alibi. Then, Edward Logan, the owner of the cabin, recalled a man named Lee Collins, who had gotten into a fight with one of the deceased. He had even threatened to kill him at one point. Lee Collins was revealed to be Charles Kimsey. He had been using a fake name since he was wanted for his involvement in an attempted murder and robbery. A man believed to be Kimsey was sighted on January 24, 1924 in Portland, Oregon. He was looking for a place to sell furs. He sold his furs at the Schumacher Fur Company for $110. He had used a stolen trapper's license with the name Edward Nichols, who was one of the Lava Lake victims. This seemed to point to his guilt, but police were unable to locate Kimsey. It would be 9 years before he was found. He was apprehended in Montana in 1933. Despite evidence against him, he claimed to have an alibi. He was supposedly working in Colorado in a tunnel during the time of the murders, even providing evidence validated by his Colorado employer. The Portland fur dealer was brought in to identify Kimsey, but was unable to say for sure it was the same man that had sold him the furs in 1924. Kimsey's appearance had changed over the 9 years. He had aged significantly and lost his hair. This caused the case against Kimsey to be dropped. He was, however, sentenced to life in prison for the unrelated attempted murder. It is widely believed that Kimsey could not have acted alone. First, Morris, Nichols, and Wilson were burly men. One of them, even a military veteran. They would not easily be overpowered, especially by one man. Then, there was the fact that multiple murder weapons were used. A man named Raven Burren Jackson was under suspicion, since he knew Kimsey and had been connected to 6 mysterious deaths in the area. Unfortunately, he died in 1938 by his own hand, taking any answers with him. This case remains officially unsolved. If you've enjoyed today's story, I highly recommend that you subscribe below. I also post on TikTok at Cassiopeia Crime, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.